Thank you so much. Yeah, I had, for those of you who don't know, I've been pretty transparent, open with it. I had a cancer. I had a tumor in the side of my face, and a month ago they cut a 2¼ inch hole in the side of my face to get that out, and they were very successful. And then a plastic surgeon took my face off and pulled it together and used the amazing stitches that they know how to do, only they know how to do, and it's great. And I'm so happy to be back. It's just great. So thanks, Mark. Welcome to the Texas Teams community, June 9th. And as I said, I'm super pleased to be back. I've been out off and on for about 4 months. And Lisa Rockenbach was our guest host last month. And I told her, thank you for rocking it, Lisa Rockenbach, pun intended. She's super cool. So, and thanks for all of you who were here and participated and helped Lisa to host a successful meeting. I actually watched part of the recording, and it was fun to watch the community and not to have been there. So we have some really cool things coming up today. Welcome and introductions. We're kind of doing that already. I did want to share one other thing in the welcome and introductions. Then I want to talk a little bit about some of the conferences that we had in May. There's some really great information that was shared across the board. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and some different trainings that are available to y'all. And thanks, Chris. And then we have this awesome session with the team that is here from HHS to talk about driving culture teams. That's what I called it. I don't know if that's what they call it, but yeah, it's just a super cool example of things that can be done. And when you sort of get outside of the box, think about it, figure out what you want to do. And so I'm not going to take any of their thunder. We're going to just stick with that. And I just noticed I have a typo there. We're going to have an open discussion. We're going to go back in time to 3:05 and have an open discussion. But we'll have we'll have some time for open dialogue and just cover some things. So let me go back to, let me see if I put it on this slide. Yes. Okay. So I sort of self-appointed, gave myself a new title. So I've been really interested in augmented and virtual reality, digital twins, a lot of this quote metaverse technologies. And so I talked to my boss and my boss's boss and my boss's boss's boss and said, look, we're doing so well with Teams in the state of Texas, and we are the only territory that has 100% adoption of Teams, meaning every state agency is using Teams now. And so I said, I'd like to take something else on and really, yeah, right, clapping hands there. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. And I think this community is really a part of that, is everybody coming together and sharing with each other how we're working together. And I think it just sort of creates it's kind of a mentality of like, of course we're using Teams, we're all using Teams. And I could not be more grateful. But as we have talked about, this year, one tribe, we're all using Teams with more cowbell. What else can we do? So HHS is going to give us a great example of that. And then I'm leaning in on some of these future-looking technologies that are going to enable us to do things like join meetings into a three-dimensional space to collaborate on documents, assets, also to join as avatars. If you haven't taken a shower today, don't come on camera, just throw your avatar into the meeting. So really cool things. It's going to be a little while, but I've already had multiple customer conversations. So if your leadership is interested in any of this stuff, this augmented reality and onboarding employees, we have partners. Accenture onboarded over 100,000 people during the pandemic, and they did it all in a virtual reality environment where they brought their new employees in for orientation in a virtual world. And they actually found that they had much higher retention. And part of onboarding is, quote, indoctrination, drinking the Kool-Aid, becoming a member of the collective. And they found that the employees in post onboarding surveys actually felt more more a part of Accenture than they had in the past when they would get together in person. So really interesting actual world use cases, not just, hey, look at my Fortnite character jumping around in a fancy outfit doing a dance. So more to share about that as we go along. But that's that. If anybody saw my LinkedIn change, that caused a little bit of uproar internally. Everybody was like, "You're what? Did you change jobs?" I'm like, "What kind of?" All right. So jumping in. Oh, I almost forgot. Mark is here. Marie is here from the DIR. They're always such great partners. And Mark and I are working on a hybrid work summit that will be happening in August. This is really going to be for executive leaders in your organization to really help them understand it's not about teams and features of teams. It's about how do we optimize the remote and hybrid work experience to drive culture. We're going to talk about that today. To really create more social ties inside of our organization. How do we keep from creating a discriminatory environment where the on-premises people have a leg up on the remote employees? And how do we leverage the technology that we've now all adopted to be able to have a better, more productive, less work, getting more done organization? So that's what we're going to be doing in August. And Mark and I were noodling on that today. Pretty excited. If you are interested in the community, which everybody here is, of course, we have this community interest list. If one of your teammates would like to be on the list, I will confess it's just a spreadsheet behind a Microsoft form. But if you scan this QR code with your phone, you can fill that out, or you can just forward this short URL to one of your peers and they can sign up. If you just forward the invite to them, then what can happen is if I create a new invite or if I just make changes to the original invite, then sometimes the new people won't get the invite. And right now we have 500 people that are invited every month, and it's a beast of an Outlook meeting request. So it's best for them to be on this list. So enough said on the commercial for the community interest list. So conferences and training. We've had multiple conferences that have taken place in the month of May, just since the last time y'all all got together. I wasn't here. So let me go through a couple of things. Now, a couple of these are a little bit older. Some of you participated in the Teams app camp. Star Donovan, I'm looking at you. I know that you were there. And I know that there were others as well. The Teams app camp was a 2-day event, 4 hours per day, took place back in March, and it was really learning how to use Power Platform. There were 4 labs, and each lab was a standalone lab, so you don't have to do all of them. They don't build on top of each other like some labs. You got to do one before you can do 2. Each one is standalone, and there's all of the assets are available, and I'll send these slides out afterward. But all the assets are available that you can download, and it's the recording of the meeting. It is a step-by-step with screen captures lab guide, as well as any additional assets. You can find the day 1 assets here, and you can find the day 2 assets here. Really, really good. And so, in fact, I know, Judy, you attended the app camp, didn't you?
No, I actually found out about it just after the fact. So I went back and went through all the resources available and learned a lot, not gonna lie.
All right, awesome. So a lot of our agencies are now looking at Power Platform and the different capabilities in Power Platform to really streamline some manual work processes. These can be something you streamline for yourself, like you do something every day and it's sort of like really repetitive or really manual. You can just do it for yourself, or you can look at it as more of a departmental or even an organization-wide solution. And I know that, again, a lot of you, I don't want to call anybody out, but during the open discussion, we can talk a little bit about that. Y'all are using some of this, but again, highly recommend if you are interested in this at all, going and checking this out. Now, one of the things that it does is you'll get instructions on how to set up your environment. So this isn't you won't be working in your production environment during these labs. You actually set up your own lab environment, and so you don't need to get like global permission or anything like that. And these things might actually be turned off inside of your Office 365 tenant. And if they are, that's okay, because you're working in a sandbox. So you're not going to do any damage, or it's okay if you mess up, because it's just a sandbox environment. So that's available for you. And then we all now have a new meeting type in Teams called a webinar. And what we did is members of our team recorded a webinar overview. There's also great videos on YouTube about webinar. If you just go to YouTube and type in webinars in Teams or Teams webinars, and you'll find lots of videos. This is one that's a pretty comprehensive overview. The gist of it is a webinar is a Teams meeting with a registration page. It's really as simple as that. It creates the opportunity for some very interesting scenarios where if you're having a public-facing meeting and you need people to sign up for the meeting that are not inside your organization, you can use the registration page for that. If you have a meeting that you want internal audiences to attend and to register for, you can use it for that. It has on the registration page, you can create a custom form with some questions like, what department do you work in? How familiar are you with the topic of the day? So you can create a list of questions that you can get as part of the registration process. And when someone registers, it sends them an email with a confirmation and the meeting request. And so it's just a really nice way of setting up a more structured type of meeting. Now, the webinar has the identical features to the Teams meeting, where you can go in and you can make it so attendees can't turn on their microphone, they can't turn on their camera. You can even disable the chat. You can create the lobby, of course. So you can really lock it down. So if you're having a big meeting with 500 people or 800 people in it, then you can really lock it down. Like maybe one of your leaders is wanting to present, but you don't want people accidentally coming off of mute when you're I just totally blanked on the commissioner, the executive commissioner is presenting or something like that, or the CIO. So you can do all of that. Now, we still have live events. And so webinars are fully interactive Teams meetings. Again, you can lock the interaction down or you can leave it open, but it's up to 1,000 people in an interactive meeting like this, where you've got the chat and the emotive reactions and all those kinds of things. You can turn all that off. But it goes up to 1,000, and then if you have more than 1,000 people join, then they join in kind of like a listen-only mode. Even if they wanted to, even if you had chat and camera and microphone enabled, they could not turn that on. They're just in a listen-only mode. That's called the overflow mode. I think that's the right term. But so it can scale up to 10,000 simultaneous attendees. But I know that we have tested it to that level. If you are going to have something with 5,000 people in it, then you might want to think about live events. And so you got Teams meetings, webinars, and then live events is what we've had for years. And live event is where it goes up to 10,000 simultaneous attendees. And live events is a really lockdown experience. You have a moderated chat where people can ask questions, but nobody sees the question unless one of your moderators promotes it so people can see it. They can answer the questions just to that person. But it is not, it's not really live. And what I mean by that is when the presenter is presenting and speaking, there's about a 30-second delay from when they say something to when it actually comes out of the speakers on one of your attendees. And so you can't have back and forth interaction, and you can't use your microphone anyway for the attendees. But even if they're asking questions and you say, does anybody have any questions? They're not going to hear that question for 30 seconds. And the reason we do that is because of the scale of the meeting, we use what's called a content delivery network to scale that out across the world. And so if you have people attending from anywhere in the world, then they're going to be receiving that signal locally. But again, 3 different meeting types. All right. This is great training if you are interested in learning more about that. And I know multiple agencies are using webinars. The next thing, which I'm very excited to talk about, and I know Marie is on the line from the DIR. She is there, and I may not use the exact right words, Marie, the accessibility coordinator. Is that statewide accessibility coordinator? Maybe. But Microsoft, we are not perfect. Our tools and tech, like Teams, it does have a lot of great accessibility features, but we are always working to make it even more accessible. And we have a huge passion for diversity and inclusion. We have many people who work at Microsoft who have a disability, whether that's a visible disability or 80% of people who have disabilities, it's a non-visible disability. And so we're very focused on providing as rich an experience for our community who has disabilities as possible. And we have an annual Ability Summit where we talk about some of those capabilities. And so we had this event back in May. And this first link is a news site that talks about, it's kind of a summary of what took place at the Ability Summit, some really great call out of different presentations that are available, different pictures that you can download if you want to use them on a like PowerPoint presentation or something. Now the summit itself, we use the Event Core platform for hosting it. And so if you go to this link, the Ability Summit 2022, oh wait, let me get my laser here. Yeah, right here. If you go to this link, then that is where you can go and you can register, even though it's already over, and you can view all of the sessions on demand. And there's just a tremendous amount of content that is available. And then one other thing that I didn't put on there, but I'm going to type it in the chat real quick, is we have a service. It's a global service called EDAD, and that stands for the Enterprise Disability Answer Desk. And so it's EDAD at Microsoft.com. And let me just type this in the chat real quick. I don't want to fall down, so I'm trying to do two things at once. That's always dangerous. Let's see. So it's called the Enterprise Disability Desk. And I botched the word disability, but I hit enter. But this is an email address that you can send a question to about different accessibility capabilities. There's accessibility capabilities in most of our products. We do have what are called VPATs on our technology. So that's where we declare what is accessible, which parts are, which parts are not. But if there's a question that you have, or if you're asking someone to come and present to you, you can go through the EDAD and make a request. Again, that email address is in the chat. Now, we also have this really cool thing called the Inclusive Tech Lab. And this link will take you to the homepage for the Inclusive Tech Lab. And this is a place where our product teams work with our community of people with disabilities to enhance our technology or create completely new technologies for creating a more inclusive environment through our technology. And the Xbox team, which is our gaming platform, does a tremendous amount of work in creating custom interfaces and custom devices that depending on the nature of the disability, but it's really inspiring. It's really impressive what has been created, and it's all because we're working together to enable a more diverse and more active workforce. So super happy about that, and check all of that out. And there's a gentleman who has been at Microsoft 29 and a half years. His name is Jerry Smith. He was going to be presenting today. His dad got COVID, and so he's taking care of his dad, which is awesome. But he's going to present next month on I'd say there's 7 or 8 things that you can do to create a more inclusive meeting. So that's using Teams, different features in Teams you can use to make a more inclusive meeting, as well as a more inclusive follow-up of your meetings by making sure that the content that you create is accessible. So I'm very excited. Sorry, Jerry couldn't be here this month, but he'll be here next month. And Mark, when you and I were talking earlier today, We were talking about something that I was going to highlight on the call.
Yeah. So we were discussing using Teams channels with people outside of your organization, collaborating using a Teams channel with someone that's
Yes, thank you. And I was thinking, because we talked a lot about accessibility, and we were talking and singing Marie's praises. But yeah, so many of our agencies.
Marie's title is Statewide Digital Accessibility Program Administrator. So you were very close.
All right, all right. I remember Jeff Klein is a longtime friend, and I think his title was slightly different. And so, but it may have been the same. And it's just that's a mouthful, but it is a mouthful of goodness. So that's like chicken fried steak with gravy on it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so what Mark and I were talking about is the ability to leverage Teams to do cross-agency collaboration. And so, you know, we work within Teams. You know, every state agency is using Teams now to kind of varying levels of sophistication of co-authoring and collaborating. You know, we're using it for chat, we're using it for meetings, but there's all these document collaboration and co-authoring and automations that can be done. So there is in a lot of our state agencies, the ability to create an external team, which means a team where people from outside your organization are a member, that's disabled. And that's disabled just from a security posture. And when we were all turning on Teams at early days of the pandemic, you know, we were running fast and furious. And so a lot of times that decision was made to disable that, just as people were getting used to Teams to make sure people didn't invite people they didn't intend to. But it's something to consider is that you can work with your security teams and your IT teams to enable for a subset of users, if you like, the ability to create an external team. And Mark and I were talking about something that we've worked on together, which is a conference where they created a team and it had the members of TSLAC, the Texas State Library and Archive Commission, members of the DIR. I was working with them on that, so I was a member of that team, and all of us could come together for meetings and share documents and work on the event. And so if that's something that you have a need to do, and when you go to create a team, if you have the ability to create a team, and if you probably don't have the ability to invite someone from outside. But if you're interested in visiting about that and looking at use cases, again, it's, you know, and there's a lot of hoops we need to go through from a security standpoint and all those kinds of things and training to make sure that, again, people don't accidentally invite someone to something they shouldn't. But it's something we could talk about.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's for the way that we were using it, and we were using it for an event that we co-host with TSLAC annually. Extremely useful. I mean, it's the reasons why we use Teams within our own organization is because it works well and it's easy and you can use the chat function. You can do it. It's possible to create a channel and share information over Teams between two different agencies. There's just a process to it, and so it can be done.
Yeah,
it works well.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah. Okay, let's see. I'm looking here just to scroll back to the chat real quick. Oh, thanks, Mark. Okay. Next conference was one that I was super interested in because we made some pretty big announcements about metaverse stuff. And the keynote, Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft, covered 10 top topics, the 10th of which was the metaverse, because he left it for last because it's the coolest. Maybe, I don't know, depends on what you think. But the Build conference is our developer conference. And so if you're a developer or you want to be a developer or you think developers are cool, then this is a great conference to go and check out. And so you can go to mybuild.microsoft.com and it'll take you, it'll resolve this en.us, english.us/home. And you can register it. All these conferences are no charge. And so you can register for that conference and then you can go and look at the different sessions. And so there is also a site called news.microsoft.com. I also highlighted that for the Ability Summit. The news site is it's a blog, and it lists out a lot of things that took place during these conferences, and it's just kind of a little bit more accessible way to look at what happened and what some of the sessions you might want to attend. Like the Build conference, I mean, it had hundreds of sessions, and it was quite a bit to go through. The other thing that they create, which is really cool, is this book of news. And so if you go to this book of news site, then in the upper right hand corner, there's a little three. I think they used to call it the hamburger. So I'm not sure what the kids call it now, but the three lines, if you click that, then there's a table of contents. And then when you click on the table of contents, you can pick the product area you're interested in, and you can pick on Teams or Azure or all different kinds of things, cognitive services. So lots of stuff there. But that way you can go just to the sessions that you're interested in. And if you click on a session, it'll give you an abstract of what was talked about. And then you can watch the video, and you can even download the PowerPoint and some of the assets like the transcript from the session. So again, lots of really good content that's available out there. Okay, transition a little bit, and I think I'm running a little behind, so I'm going to speed it up a little. I know last month there were some questions about Company Communicator, and I think Lisa did a demo of Company Communicator. Is that right, Mark?
That's right, she did. Yeah, we talked.
Okay, perfect. So Company Communicator gives your communications department the ability to use Teams for communication, and that can be to one department, that can be to just one team of people that are a member of a team, or it can be the whole organization. And we have multiple agencies who we have a couple that are using it today. We have two that are coming online. We'll be using it very soon. And it is a really effective tool to use. It's not hard to use, but there's a back end that's a little bit complex, but we can help you with all of that. So if this is intriguing, then you can just let me know. You can just reach out to me directly on Teams, or you can put something in the chat here that you're interested in more information about Company Communicator. And again, we have a couple of agencies using it already, and then some very large agencies that will be using it soon. So more to follow there. And I just wanted to highlight one thing is, as part of working with your communications group, we will also help you devise and design a whole communication plan if you would like. We have some large companies, worldwide companies like Ernst & Young, they go by EY now, that use Company Communicator to really optimize how people use Teams and Office 365. So we have all kinds of training content, and we have messages you can send out, and we have, this is an example of a landing page. And so a landing page is when you send out a Company Communicator message, you can have a button on there to learn more. When you click the Learn More button, what it often does, you can have it take you to a registration page. You can have it take you to a form that you fill out. You can have it take you to a SharePoint page, or really you can have it go anywhere, any URL. And this is a landing page like you could use for your first message. So it's just kind of top tips and things like that. So just want you to know that there's a lot of assets that that we can share with you. Michael, we are interested in Company Communicator. Thank you, Aaron. I've been working with Aaron for a little while on getting Company Communicator rolled out. So without further ado, I am super excited to introduce y'all to three of the members of the HHS IT communications team. We have Aaron Passons, Michaela Muscher, and Alex Gamil. I hope I pronounced all of your names correctly. And so I'm just going to hand it straight over to them and go on mute here for a bit. Aaron, you want to take it away and kind of talk about what y'all did?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Michael. Get this. Hi, everyone. As Michael said, I am Aaron. I am the internal marketing lead for Texas Health and Human Services. Today, my colleagues, Michaela, Alex, and I are going to share with you how we use Microsoft Teams and SharePoint to create an immersive experience to help communicate change. To start off, I'm going to talk about the change itself, the challenge, the solution, and provide a little demo. Then Michaela and Alex will talk about how we use Microsoft Teams and SharePoint to design the solution. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so the change is the Culture Council. What is that? It is a team of 10 non-manager staff who would work together to recommend solutions for improving the employee experience, such as employee retention, diversity and inclusion, and upskilling staff. Now, this has like never been done before in our agency or in IT. So when we were looking at communicating change, we knew it was going to be a little bit tricky. And especially when we're looking at getting that manager buy-in, because the very nature of the Culture Council meant that some decisions made by their staff would not be routed to them first. It would go straight to executive leadership. And for some managers, that could be a little bit, unnerving. And so we really wanted to get their buy-in. Additionally, there are concerns about, we knew that some managers would say, oh, our staff are too busy to participate. We knew that using the cascading communication plan doesn't always work, because oftentimes that communication gets stuck at either a manager level or it doesn't get filtered down to staff. And we also knew that there would be managers who have created their own subculture, right, within their own team. And maybe we're hesitant to get their staff involved with the initiative that would be IT-wide. And finally, the concern of, we knew managers would simply just not understand the value of the Culture Council and wouldn't try to persuade their staff to apply to join. So we knew we had to think out the box. We knew we had to change tactics. So we planned an all manager meeting. That was the first step, okay? But sometime at like 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up with it's more just to tell them about it. We need to actually have them experience it, for themselves the value of working with people that they didn't normally work with, to come together to create a single solution. So the three of us, we put our heads together and we decided to create an escape room, a virtual escape room, mind you. And the theme of the escape room would be foreign invaders have attacked our systems, everything is down, and teams had to work together to find the magical passcodes that would get our systems and services back online in just 15 minutes. To create this experience, we utilized features of Microsoft Teams and SharePoint, which my colleagues will describe in more detail in a bit. But for now, I do want to take you through a demo. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to do a little bit of switcheroo. So just one moment. I stop presenting and I'm going to share my screen instead. All right, Michaela, Alex, I hope I got the passcodes right this time. So they start out in a waiting room. And what they do here is, because most people haven't worked with each other before, some didn't even know each other. This is just for everyone to introduce themselves, a few introductions. They only stay there for a few minutes, and then we give them the passcode to enter. Hey, I got it right. Okay. So the first room is very simple. They're going to click on these viruses. And every time they do it, it's going to reveal a letter, appreciation. So, applying this code will get them into the next room. This is where it gets a little bit trickier. So they've got to find a 10-letter password by clicking through the different rooms, different items in this room. as they click around, they're going to notice that there are several letters missing from each artifact. For example, pretty sure that Thomas Edison did not quote this. This is Thomas Edison. Once they put those letters together, it's going to spell connection. And all right, so this next one, this next one's like probably the one that everyone got stuck on. This is where I can tell you our developer Alex put most of his coding effort. We realized, okay, that so far we had created an experience where people had to communicate, but not necessarily collaborate. And for order for them to get the passcode for this, they had to move these levers in a perfect sequence of 4 people, 4 actions, and it would come up with the passcode, which I hope I got it right. Let's see, I think it's performance. Alex, am I right? Yay! All right. Finally, we have the last room, and this one's kind of similar to the second. So they're finding the passcode still, but they're using numbers. All these little items in the room, they have a number associated with them. Those numbers correlate to a letter in the alphabet, and we were super nice and helpful. And we added like a little chart to let them know. And many people did get this room. And let's see, I think it is growth. Once they correlate the numbers to the letters, it'll spell growth. And they are out of the escape rooms. And they reach their final room. They've got our CIO, Ricardo Blanco, is thanking them for our service to Texas. And everyone is happy, and it ends up being a great success. All right, just one moment, and I will go back to the slide deck.
I think we need a round of applause for that. That was totally awesome.
Thank you. So this was, we had such great feedback from everyone who participated. Even teams who didn't finish in time, they really cited enjoying the whole experience, getting to know team members that they wouldn't normally have interacted with. And a lot of managers wanted to set it up for their own teams. So we were really excited with the feedback. And I'm going to turn it over now to Michaela, and she's going to talk about how we used Microsoft Teams to set up this event.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Erin. So as Erin said, my name is Michaela, and I'll be talking about how we use Teams to play the room and also contribute to the overall experience to help communicate change. So the first feature we used in Teams was breakout rooms. So with breakout rooms, you can set everything up ahead of time, or you can do it during the meeting. And we decided to set everything up ahead of time so that we didn't have to scramble during the meeting. But this also allowed us to replicate how the Culture Council would improve employee engagement. And I'll explain how in a little bit. But before I do, as I said, we decided to create the rooms before the meeting. We had around 150 managers in the meeting, and we separated them out into about 20 breakout rooms. And it was really important to have those in place ahead of time for some of the functionalities of especially the room where you had to pull the levers. 4 different people had to pull the levers. So we had everything set up ahead of time. And then we also manually assigned all of the participants to a breakout room before the meeting instead of doing it randomly. Teams does have a feature where you can randomly assign participants to a breakout room, but for our purpose, we decided to do it manually because that allowed us to strategically group people together. So we made sure that in each room, there were no two people from the same department. So each room had people from different departments, and we also incorporated all levels of management in each room. So we had executive leadership paired with, middle leadership all the way down to the lowest level manager, all paired together in each room. And so this allowed us to replicate the experience of what the Culture Council would be by having people of different departments work together that they may not normally work with, as well as working across, all levels of staff to accomplish the same goal, which for the Culture Council is, improving employee engagement. But for this meeting, the goal was to get out of the escape room. But that's how we kind of replicated that experience. And then another thing that we did before the meeting was appoint breakout room managers. So this allowed more people than just the meeting organizer to monitor each breakout room chat, send announcements to the breakout rooms, as well as join the breakout room. If any teams were stuck in a particular room, we had breakout room managers jump in that room and kind of help them through and give them hints. And so the breakout room manager feature was really helpful because it allowed 3 people to, provide assistance to the rooms if they were stuck and answer questions, as opposed to just one person, the meeting organizer. Now, during the meeting, once we moved everyone into the breakout rooms, we used the announcements feature of breakout rooms, and that allowed us to communicate with all staff in all the breakout rooms at once. So we used that feature to send the link to start the game. We also sent the first passcode of the game to start the game as an announcement, and then we use this for some timing reminders as well, like 15 minutes left, 10 minutes left, etc. And then once we finished the activity, we closed the breakout rooms, we brought everyone back to the main meeting, and we used the reactions feature in Teams to gauge participation and excitement. So, we said if you made it through the first room, give the like reaction. If you made it through the second room, give the heart reaction, and so on. And it was just a fun way to gauge participation. So that is kind of a summary of how we used Teams to help facilitate our game and promote engagement. So I'm going to hand it over to Alex to talk about how we used SharePoint.
Okay, so one of the things I'm really a big proponent of SharePoint. If you've met me, I've worked at a lot of different organizations with SharePoint, and a lot of times it's underutilized, or people just don't realize the capabilities that they have with it. So I liken it to like having your organization has a 747 and all you're using it for is to get a glass of water. So what we're trying to show you here is there's a lot of cool stuff. I used to do .NET development, and one of the cool things about this is a lot of the stuff's already pre-built, so you can leverage the heck out of it. So in this process, we had lists that we used. We just used SharePoint lists, and that housed all the data that we had for the information on the waiting room, the information on the grouping of the people beforehand of what you did in Teams, grouping them again in what group which we needed to call to say, hey, these people are working together. And then finally, more so, and something that Aaron didn't show you that's really cool that everyone doesn't see is for the admin people, we made a little dashboard that shows where everybody is in every one of the rooms, so you can actually see who's in what room, who's going where. In fact, I can share briefly real quick. Let's see. And Aaron, after I share, please put it back to the other. So what I was going to say is here's like the list that had the waiting rooms, the participant list. This is where I made it so that Erin can go in and edit the information there on her own. And then here's another list. This is the actual team groups. And then this is like the hit counter that tells what's happening. And then finally is the dash. I can go to it right there. This is like a dashboard that shows, like it shows Aaron made to that. It looks like I'm still stuck on the first room. Basically, it all pops up. You can put on the teams that you want in there, and it shows you exactly when people got to that and stuff. So can you, before we switch it back, I just want to show you. So one of the powerful things that I really like about SharePoint is this part is when you leverage it. After you have your information in the list, you can use stuff like H2 and just simple JavaScript to go get that information to do stuff with it. So here's an example of going, remember that list, the rooms? Very simple little line of code and it goes and it gets you all the information. Of course, you have to read it and you put that out, but it's all available. It's all already built in. All the admin screens. That's why I can really rapidly deploy a solution in SharePoint because it's almost already done. You just have to do the part, the front end is the only piece. Aaron, can you put it back up?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that that dashboard that you created, that was awesome. Like, especially someone like me, like I'm so visual, and it was just so easy to, in a glance, to be able to see where everyone was. And yeah, that was awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
stuff.
and to chime in on that, as I was saying, the meeting organizers or the breakout room managers, it was me, Aaron, Alex. So we had the dashboard up and we could see, oh, team 5 is stuck in this room. Let's jump to that breakout room and give them a hint. So yeah, it's awesome.
And so the REST services is the piece that I just showed you where you go call that information. But the piece that I just skipped was the pages. Basically, that's just using this part is the classic part, and I use both. We're being able to use both. And again, what I really like is what the platform that we have allows us to use a lot of even just regular JavaScript solutions out there to add, to enhance, even for rapid deployment. Sometimes you just have a throwaway request where you need to gather information quickly. So and this allows you to rapidly deploy something and then put it out there and test it and then have it used. There's been so many examples where this thing took a while only because we kept going back and forth on what we wanted to do, but we had, I think in less than half a day, I already had the first room already built up, like just 4 hours, already had the first room. The lever room took the longest because it's having to collaborate with going back every time someone's clicking to try to say, okay, where's everybody clicked? And then going back and then displaying on everybody's screen, hey, you got the passcode, or giving them the error if everyone was pressing out of control. So yeah, I really like it. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Alex. All right. Do we have any questions? Angel, you're here. Any questions, comments? You played it. How'd you like it?
I think there's a few people on this call who have played it actually.
Hey, I was trying to get off mute, but I absolutely loved it. It was totally fun. It's so much fun.
Thank you.
You guys did an awesome job.
And hey team, I don't know if y'all know it, but Cassie actually used this in her own strategic all hands meeting. So I got to do it there. Thank you. Great job.
I had a question. I guess somebody just answered it, but how was the reaction from management and upper management while they were going through this? Some of the times you get people who are not quite comfortable and they're new to escape rooms or games or things like that. How did that work out? Was it pretty good across the board when they saw how enthusiastic everybody was?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for asking that. We did have overwhelming positive response, and I forgot to mention that the outcome. Did that do the trick? Did that make managers more responsive to the culture council and that whole concept? And it did, because we announced the culture council after the game, And so what that did is all the managers, they were in that right mood to listen and to buy into that idea. We ended up with 49 applications for the council, and that is a lot, right? For like a department of like introverts. And I truly believe that the escape room, the way that we communicated that change, the way that we got the managers buy-in was a key factor in getting those numbers. Thank you for asking.
I see that Keith has his hand up. Keith, you got a question?
Well, she actually answered it, and that was the big deal that I really, Aaron, you wrapped it up with the good bow there, because that change in mindset, and using this tool to do that, I don't know. I'm just thoroughly freaking impressed. I don't know about anybody else, but thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And Shara, I saw you had your hand up a little while ago. Did you have a question, or did it get answered for you? I'm not trying to call you out, but just make sure.
Not a problem. Yeah, it got answered. My connection's a little bit wonky, but yeah, I think it did.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I just what I love about this example, and I really just want to say thank you to Aaron and Michaela and to Alex. It's a lot of hard work to do something like this. It's a lot of fun work, I think. And when you're able to drive this kind of a cultural transformation, really, I mean, it's at a, compared to the size of the agency, it's kind of at a small scale. But what we really see in a lot of the research that Microsoft does is cultural transformation and getting people to cross boundaries and work more closely together. It's one person at a time, and it's really important to get management engaged. And so the fact that you basically took from all the way from what we call M1s, manager ones, frontline managers, all the way up to the most senior executives, all got to experience this at the same time. One, that is super rare to get that strata of people together at the same time and in the same room and experiencing. I think sometimes we get a little bit of us and them going inside of the hierarchies inside of an organization, and it's really cool that you broke down those barriers using something that is simple but obviously complex, behind the scenes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bradley asks, what are your future plans for this type of communication? That's a really great question. It certainly inspired us to do more efforts like this. The immersive, that word keeps running through my head. I think when people experience something, the benefit of a change, it makes all the difference. I will tell you, I mean, we've already got plans to use the huddle room, the concept of it. Michaela, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and each year we have some sort of activity that we do. And so this year we are going to build another escape room and to help people, educate themselves about cybersecurity awareness. And so we are super excited for that in October.
Nice. So, Aaron, Michaela, Alex, if someone wanted to replicate a little bit of what y'all did, would you be willing, putting you on the spot here, would you be willing to have a call with another agency that is like, hey, we'd like to do something like that, and maybe just share a little bit more of the kind of, I know that we have we have a lot of Teams users here, but I know that some of our agencies really have some pretty deep SharePoint talent also, like y'all do. And so maybe we could get a little bit of, maybe we just have a call specifically to how you did this, if someone wanted to replicate.
Absolutely. Sharing is caring.
All right. I had a coworker years ago. We worked at a startup together, and he would say it takes teamwork to make the dream work. He had a million of them. We used to do trust falls in the office. So yeah, that's how, it was a startup. And he didn't give you any warning, and he was not a small person. He would just walk up to you, spin on one foot, and start falling at you. And so and it's not really cool to pull your hands back and jump out of the way when someone does a trust fall. Let's see, what do we got there? I think the escape room would be great. SECC fundraiser this fall. I don't know what SECC is, but yeah,
That's the
fundraisers.
state employee contribution campaign. It's
Oh, yeah.
across all the agencies. So sorry for using a term you weren't familiar with, but probably the rest know that every
Yeah,
year.
that's great.
We do it, and we're always looking for new ideas. You can only do bake sales at headquarters so much.
Yeah, no, I love that idea. I remember that the teacher retirement system back before the pandemic, they were doing an auction, and they used Teams, and they used some. This was back before we had breakout rooms or anything. They got pretty creative, where they made a team live at just the right time. And then they created teams where you have the ability, when you create a channel that has a chat, to say that the participants cannot post. They can only the owner can post. And so the owners of these channels were able to post about the bid for the auction item. And so people were filling out a form to bid on the auction items. And so it was a really very elegant, and it worked incredibly well. I think they raised the most money that they had. And so let's do some noodling on using Teams for the SECC.
It's funny you said that, because at Pernalis Electric, I actually built some of the same thing, but we used SharePoint, and it had a dashboard. People could bid on stuff. It cut off at a certain time, but people could bid on different auctions. You could submit stuff for auctioning, and but it was all based off on SharePoint, and real time in a dashboard. You could see where all the bids were at any given time.
That's super cool. Are you using this in training areas? Yeah. That's a great question, Keith. I know Keith is big in the training area. And Vince, yeah, CPA sounds like they did the same thing on their IT auction. So sounds like we have some cool ideas, and maybe we could do a subgroup. And so Judy, maybe if you would be willing to, I don't know what your engagement is with the SECC, is that right? Where did that acronym go? But yeah, maybe we could let's take it to the next level, with the cool factor.
Well, I'm our department coordinator, not the agency coordinator, but I definitely have a vested interest in putting my creative ideas to our agency anyway. So I'm happy to gather any from our partners.
Yeah, and I'm gonna call you out a little bit here, Judy. Judy is one of the people, as she said earlier, that attended or watched the recordings of the app camp, and is a burgeoning Power Platform user. So maybe we could do some cool Power Platform stuff. So very exciting. So clearly, MS needs to provide some escape room templates for SharePoint, right, Tim? Yeah. Maybe we can get Alex to post something to the SharePoint community and show him how he did it. I love that idea of let's share the wealth. I know that I've seen some of the stuff that Alex can make with he calls it just a couple little HTML, some simple JavaScript. Yeah. So
I don't know about that JavaScript. No, not easy.
Yeah, exactly.
At least not for
everybody
me.
else
It
looks
was.
at it and is like, wait, what? And Alex is like, oh yeah, you just yeah. Aaron, Michaela, Alex, thank you so much for being willing to come on. They actually shared this on the National Health and Human Services call. I think it was last Friday, last Friday, 2 Fridays ago. Yeah. But they shared this on the big stage on the national call for Health and Human Services agencies across the U.S. And I know that they were equally impressed. So thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
sure,
you
I totally agree.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed it, and yeah, absolutely, we're all about sharing this information. We really enjoyed doing it. We know the participants enjoy playing it, and however we can share, we'll be happy to.
Awesome. Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen again here, Aaron.
Please do.
All right, give me just a second here.
Michael.
Yes, sir.
Did we lose the recording when you changed transition over to Aaron?
I sure hope not, but
I hope not either, but I just noticed I don't see the recording. I didn't see the recording thing.
No, it under my menu it says stop recording, so it is
Okay, cool.
still going. Well, I'm
Good,
yeah,
good.
had me scared there for a second, Keith. I was like, oh
Me-
no.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I just would have hated to have not gotten that on tape, as we used to say.
Now you're showing your age, sir.
Yeah, right.
I say that in the nicest way possible. Because I resembled that remark.
Exactly.
Tape, I know what that is.
My parents actually used to have a reel-to-reel and had some recordings on reel-to-reel, and I would get them out, and I must have been 7 or something, and when I figured out how to make that thing work, and it was just so cool.
Now, all of us know exactly what a pencil is for, right?
Yeah, for rewinding your cassette tape.
Dang right.
What's tape? Yeah, thanks, Bradley. Appreciate that, man. I'm trying to share my PowerPoint. It's coming. It says the slides will appear here when they're ready. I'm ready for them. Are y'all ready for them?
I can see the title slide, Welcome to Texas Teams Community.
Oh, you can?
I see it too.
It says, we're having difficulty loading your presentation. You can wait a while longer or try reloading it. Oh, look at that, Leanne. Oh my God. Is that a picture from your house or is that a GIF?
It's a GIF.
That's pretty darn similar to what my dad had.
Oh, seriously. I was going to say, fortunately, that was before my time.
Well, it wasn't before mine.
Oh, God, I'm old.
Okay, it finally loaded for me, and I love the feature with PowerPoint Live where it says, do you want to resume to the slide that you were on before? It actually remembers. It's sort of like when you restart a movie on Netflix. I won't say on VHS because y'all won't know what I'm talking about. But when you restart a movie on Netflix, it takes you right back. Okay. So we're already kind of doing open discussion, but I wanted to put this this question up. David Gottlieb with the city, he unfortunately just vacation lined up with the last 2 meetings, and so he hasn't been able to do the GOT Teams, but he is planning on attending next month. And we have showcased a few times where David and his team have used Power BI. Like he creates a solution, takes an old paper-based process, creates either a Power App or a form to do intake, and then uses SharePoint lists like Alex did to capture that information, because David loves him some SharePoint too, big time. And then creates some dashboards using Power BI to show the results, and then uses Power Automate to automate the decision flow and processes and sending documents back and forth. And you're making me laugh, Keith. But Power BI is a really powerful tool that can be standalone and do all kinds of incredible dashboards and data analysis. Super, super powerful. But it can also be embedded right inside of a team so that as a group is working, they can have a dashboard that's specific to, if it's a project, it can be a burn down chart, or if it's something around some initiative, it can be displaying information about that, and it's interactive. So I find that incredibly interesting. By maybe a show of hands, like a raise hand feature, how many of y'all would be interested in going a little bit deeper on Power BI and how they use Power BI to integrate that into some of their kind of these solutions that they create internally? Okay, I'm seeing some hands. Hey, John, good to see you. Judy, yep, Keith. Okay, so we got some hands going up. I mentioned that to David Gottlieb, and David created a thing called I think it was called the Office 365 Boot Camp for these. Wow, I got a lot of hands. The Office 365 Boot Camp for the city of Austin. And David is an evangelist and a teacher and a mentor at heart. And so he created trainings. He wrote and recorded and made trainings. And he did a couple for Power BI. So I'm going to ask him to really share some of his knowledge. And one of the things I love about David is that David doesn't know code. He doesn't know how to write code. And so he has to figure out how to do everything with configuration. And that's like me. I'm an infrastructure person from way back, but I don't know how to write a line of code. I don't know how to use PowerShell. I don't know how, he can't stand the command line. And so it's really about how you configure versus how do you write code to do something. So we'll do that. Yeah, I agree, Shar. That would be amazing. So okay. And then the other thing that we're doing next month, as I mentioned, hopefully Jerry will be available and he's going to come in and talk to us about how to make your team's experiences more accessible. And so if you have accessibility coordinators that are part of your organization, please invite them to attend. They can always go and see the video on our YouTube channel. And what I love about this, I got to see David's demo of these things, and I learned several new things that I didn't even know existed. And but it's just a really, he boiled down the essence of these simple things that you can do that really make a difference. I have hearing loss. I have a son with very significant disabilities. He uses a wheelchair. He has cognitive as well as physical disabilities, and he's an amazing human being. But he didn't get any breaks in the body department. So we really need to do everything we can to be more inclusive. Luckily we've got that capability. That's all I have for today. But so let's just open it up. If anybody has any topic that they would like to talk about, I see someone with a hand up. I don't know if that is a leftover hand up from the Power BI vote. If you have your hand up and you have a topic you want to talk about, just come on off mute and ask your question.
Michael, I did see a question in the chat.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Power Pages.
Yes. Yeah, so we got Thomas and John Barton and Cheryl Taylor still have their hands up, but again, I think those may be left over, but if they're not, then feel free to come off of mute. And let me go, I'm gonna go to the chat. If someone doesn't mind just reading out what the question is, I have too many windows open and I'm getting a little laggy. Let's see.
The question is how Power Pages fits in with Teams.
Yeah. So great question, Stephanie. I don't know a lot about this, but I'll tell you what I know. Power Pages is a new capability from Microsoft that gives organizations who have Office 365 and Power Platform the ability to create internet-facing web pages that can be anonymous web pages or authenticated web pages, meaning you can log into it, that have the ability to create like an actual website for your organization. That's just about everything I know about it. What is different, what we had in the past with Power Platform is we have 3 different types of Power Platform apps that can be created. There's a Canvas app, which is kind of straight out of the box, like from scratch, like really designing things. There's a model app, and that's a model-driven app, and that uses a Dataverse backend. Dataverse is a pre-configured set of database tables that already have the relationship set up that you can develop an application on top of, and so it kind of comes with a database already set up. That's a model app, and then we had what was called the portal. A portal was a web site that you could create that was a Power Platform site, but these Power Pages really take that to the next level. Years ago, Microsoft had the ability with SharePoint. Alex probably remembers, and so do some of the other people that have been working with SharePoint for a while. We had an internet-facing version of SharePoint, but we decided to get rid of that when we kind of a few years into Office 365. I think probably some of our customers were using it for really significant internet sites that had millions of visitors, and it just really wasn't designed for that. And so the team that supports that decided to deprecate it. So I think these Power Pages are going to be a new way that our customers are able to create a scalable and really highly available website. So that's pretty much as I know. I don't know at all when it's going to come to GCC. So I will try to find out more about that. I've shared with you all a little bit of my frustration. I don't mind being transparent with our roadmap, and it's not super accurate. That's a generous statement. And so I kind of just wait till things come out before I talk about them these days. So sorry about that. It's not the way it should be, and we're working on it, but it's not proud of that. Okay, so Judy, get your hand up.
Yeah, I do apologize for taking up everybody's time with a question, but I work in the Veterans Commission and I'm the only one doing anything with any of this. So I would like to ask if the comment icon on SharePoint list has disappeared for everybody else. And if so, can anyone tell me what happened to it?
Alex?
I've tried it in all the browsers. It's just
Well,
gone. And we
yeah.
rely on SharePoint lists for our daily work, monitoring, reporting, and we require our frontline workers to add comments about their work. And so it's kind of a big deal for us.
Yeah.
So that's my question. Thank you.
The HHS and a couple of other agencies actually have a commercial sector Office 365 tenant, so they have features that some of us don't. So does anybody else know about that? Shar, maybe? I think Shar does, and Star do some SharePoint development.
This is Kyle Humphreys. I do know that certain SharePoint lists that I think that it's something you can turn on and off by list, turning on and off comments. So you might check your lists and just make sure that the comments feature is turned on for the list in the advanced properties.
The comments are enabled. The icon that shows when a comment has been added, when you're just looking at the list rather than opening the record to view the comments, that icon disappeared. So, and again, I'm the only one doing anything, and I didn't do anything on purpose. Not to say this still isn't my fault, but you know, it just happened. And so I checked with a few other users. I checked it in Firefox and Edge. I'm a Chrome user. And it's gone everywhere. So I thought maybe it was a Microsoft update.
Let me look. I'm seeing on a SharePoint community list, there's I was binging, not Googling. I was binging for it. Let's see. Talking about where the comments icon next to the edit form field no longer appears. The comments do appear and are usable. Okay, and let me see if there's an answer. I have the same question.
You just have an icon appearing, right? That tells you there's a comment there. Right.
Correct. And that's what went away.
Right. There in the past, what I tried to do, I haven't done it recently though, is have it actually show the comment on there so you don't have to go get it. And then sometimes you have to, but it's more, it takes a little bit more work to do that. But if the icon's missing, yeah, I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah,
Thank you. We may do that as a workaround, but they leave running commentary, so it clutters up the list. Even if I, say only show 2 lines for each record, 2 lines of text, we have so many other fields on there that they don't want to clutter it. It's a small thing. I just wanted to throw it out there in case somebody said, oh yeah, this happened to us last month. Here's what I did to fix it. But please don't spend any time binging it. I'll figure something out. But thank you for allowing me to ask.
And Michael, do they have someone that they can speak to? Because occasionally, sometimes a push is made accidentally, not through you.
That's right.
And that when they realize it, because we've gone back to Microsoft and say, hey, this has changed. And then they go back and look at it. If you open up a ticket with them, I don't know if you have that process, so I could be, but they can go and look through it to see if it's something on their end, and they have corrected things for us in the past when things were accidentally changed.
Yeah, I would, I think y'all, I don't remember, Judy, if the Texas Veterans Commission is part of the unified contract. That it sounds like a bug to me. So if you don't have a unified support contract, let me know and I'll reach out to one of our CSAMs. You have my you can ping me on Teams and we can get a bug request submitted. It sounds like it could be. It's possible it's something that is specific to your tenant. I've seen that before. As strange as that seems, we got all these global, I don't even hundreds of thousands of global tenants, and one can get off, and then they do something, some magic in the back end, and they fix it. And I just said everything I understand about how that works. So let me know if you don't have the ability to submit a support ticket.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And then Kyle had a comment on there. If you know that a specific item must be selected before you can see comments, otherwise comments are working fine in our tenant. So, and they're also in a GCC tenant. So that it does sound like it might be isolated to your tenant, in which case it's a bug.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the other comments just to help troubleshoot that much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Okay, I see that there's another hand up, but I get my my interface here is laggy, so just come on off mute if you've got a question.
Yeah, sorry, Michael, this is Star. I was just wondering if you'd heard anything about when GCC will be allowed to access the feedback portal sites, especially since User Voice has gone away.
Yeah.
Because every time I try to log into one of those, it says, we're not blocking it, but it's not allowed. And I think you
no, and there's nothing that you've done wrong. It is truly one of the most inexplicable, crazy things I've ever seen. And I've been at Microsoft for quite a while. So if you don't know, we removed the user voice ability for users that are from government tenants to be able to submit user feedback about Office 365, or really, I think about anything. There was supposed to be another system that they were putting in, but they deprecated one before the other came out, and then now the other system has had some significant delays. What I was literally on my team has a chat that is this ongoing chat that goes 24/7, and someone literally yesterday, the day before, was talking about that Star. It is not back, and none of our customers are happy about this. We're not happy about this. What I did here in the chat was that if you log in with your star.donovan@hotmail.com, or if you have a personal quote Microsoft account, not your O365, but your just a Microsoft account, you can submit feedback that way, but you can't do it as a government employee. I apologize on behalf of Microsoft. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's disappointing, but good to know that there's a work, I guess.
Yeah, and you can always submit a problem or a feedback through Natalie, through your CSAM. I'm not saying that's not convenient. I mean, it's not the way it should be, but that is an option.
Well, it's usually when I'm interested in the feedback portal, it's for the same reasons I was interested in user voice. It's not because I have a problem, because if I have a problem, I can open up a support ticket. It's more to give support to feature requests or to suggest a feature that other people can vote for, to get that to Microsoft's attention that this is a feature people are interested in, and to not have that avenue is a little disappointing.
100% agree with you, Star. It's not okay. Yeah, and we're giving that feedback very loudly. They have heard it. I know that they're working on it. Yeah, I wish I had a better answer for you, Star.
That's okay. And on a more positive note, I wanted to say I did see, and it kind of feeds into your thing earlier about the roadmap because it's supposed to already be launched. But I did see the feature ID 88911 about being able to see both your standard and private channels from the same SharePoint site, even though they're different site locations. I think it's using part of the hub site feature. So that I'm looking forward to.
Wow, that's cool. So yeah, if you, for those of you who don't know, if you create a private channel in a Microsoft Teams team, that private channel actually uses a different site, what's it called? A site collection, so that it keeps those completely separate because there's separate permissions applied to it. And so what Star is saying is that we're kind of bringing those together to be able to see them in one place, even though they are really separate for security and permissions purposes. That's cool. There are some somewhat there are definitely some limitations in private channels compared to what you can do in a regular channel. So I think we're working on that, but
No
apparently
channel.
it's pretty hard.
Yeah, there's no channel meetings in private right now.
That's right. Yeah, no channel meetings. I don't think I'm not sure that you can do retention policies inside of private channels. There's a few things. Integration into to do or whatever we're calling it right now.
Yeah, I tell anybody in our org who wants to use a private channel that they should use it for conversation only, because there's so many other caveats around it.
Yeah, it's a good place to keep if you're working on something and you have, let's say you're working on a project or like an event and you have some regular channels and then you have a private channel where maybe just a subgroup that are working on documents about that event. It can be used for that pretty successfully, but once you start getting into additional features, then it falls apart a little bit.
Well, and as long as you don't want to share the documents you produce with the larger team, because since they're separate SharePoint sites, you can end up with 2 different versions.
Yes, that's right. You actually have to move it over, and that's again, that sort of defeats the purpose of the co-authoring and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, we are about 3 minutes over, so apologies for running a little bit long. Thank you. Well, first, thank you to the HHS team for showcasing their solution, their escape room solution. That was awesome, and I think you're going to get some follow-up, some people wanting to do similar things. Let's stay in contact about the SECC, Judy. If you just kind of reach out to me when that stuff is coming up, and we can start doing some pre-planning about ways that we might be able to make that just a little bit cooler, a little more interactive. And thanks to everybody for joining. It is so great to be back, and welcome. I think we're at this point, I think we're planning on having a July meeting and an August meeting. And then there'll be more things coming about things for the future. Thanks. And we'll look forward to Power BI as well as accessibility for next month's meeting. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Absolutely.